Hello everyone and welcome back to Crypto Atlas, back in with another episode looking at Bitcoin. We're going to look at Ethereum and XRP. We'll go look at Loopring, see what's going on with that as well, guys, as Orchid. And so we're going to start off with just a quick little highlight on some of the recent news that's going on, and then we'll dive into the actual charts. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can stay up to date with things, especially if you click the bell icon. That is the best way, as YouTube has had a lot of issues with notifications. So clicking the bell icon is so important. And if you can, hit the like button. Let's try to get every video that we do on this channel to 100 likes if possible. You guys are awesome. Let's get right into this. Okay, so first thing up, JP Morgan says Bitcoin could rise to $146,000 long term as it competes with gold. They seem to keep raising the bar higher on this. JP Morgan said Bitcoin could rally as high as $146,000 in the long term as it competes with gold as an alternative currency. Bitcoin's volatility would need to drop substantially before it can match gold in terms of market value, the bank's strategist said in a note Monday. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon once called Bitcoin a fraud and said he is more interested in blockchain technology than crypto. So it's interesting how everything kind of does a 180 flip on something like this, right? Also, something to note is that $146,000 they said is a long-term projection, which is actually still very conservative when you look at a lot of the other projections. Like just in the next 4 years alone, according to the stock to flow model and what the expectancy is before the next halving event, we're looking at about $288,000 around the median zone. So we could see it push up closer to $400,000 before the next halving event occurs, right? As we push up to the peak, and then it has some pullback, some cool down before it starts to rally up again in the next several years. So $146,000 may sound like a lot, and it is, don't get me wrong. But when you compare that to what like the Winklevoss twins have said, $500,000, we're trying to equate it to something similar to gold, this seems very conservative still. So they're raising their bar higher, don't get me wrong, but yeah. Another opinion, this is from Market Watch, they think that Bitcoin is headed for a supply shortage and that will keep pushing up prices. What do you guys think about this? They're saying that we believe that Bitcoin has matured and now is the right time to invest in this widely popular currency. They give you a series of reasons why, but in short, there is significant more demand for Bitcoin than there is supply. At the same time, the risks associated with investing in Bitcoin, namely the potential for theft, have been substantially diminished over the past 3 years, with the U.S. Office of the Comptroller of the Currency authorizing national banks to provide cryptocurrency services. Several banks have also started to provide institutional Bitcoin custody services, deposit taking, custody, and fiduciary services for digital assets. What's more, the IRS bestowed favorable tax treatment on Bitcoin by treating it as property that produces capital gains and losses. As a consequence of these regulatory and infrastructure developments, Wall Street has turned bullish on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now on the menu for asset allocators, right? So it's interesting how a lot of these perspectives come in. I agree with all this information that's coming out. Let me know what you guys think. Next up, this guy actually just left Bitcoin, which ironically, guess what? Bitcoin is now up even more after he did this. I saw a meme somebody posted on Twitter, the guy from Despicable Me, Groot, I think is his name, or Gru, right? So he was basically saying, so here's the strategy, right? You wait for Bitcoin to be cheap. You buy it when it goes up, you sell it at the top, right? And then when it goes down again, you buy it again. But as he's saying, as it goes down again, he's talking, he takes a look back at the chart and then he notices the price is way higher just in that moment that he kind of looked away, and he's like, so he missed the boat, obviously, right? And now he's going to have to buy in at a higher price. So he actually owns less Bitcoin than if he would have just held on the whole time. So this guy is saying, do I think that this is it for the boom? My answer is, this is enough for me, which is an interesting perspective. This is through Forbes magazine. I don't want to try and get the top. I feel there is a possibility of Bitcoin running to $40,000, $60,000 during this move, but my crypto is breaking my golden rule of diversification by miles. I prefer now to sit back and lament my missed opportunity than face the prospect of a crash wiping out a huge chunk of paper profits. My utter confidence in the next Bitcoin rally upwards has melted away, so now is the time to say farewell. So he decided to go ahead and take his profits, and now he's backed off, and So he's just going to kind of observe things from the side. So he seems content with this, and everybody is different. You know, he's entitled to have his own point of view. Personally, $40,000 I think is just a drop in the bucket compared to everything else. Something that I really want to stress to everybody, and a lot of people seem to be forgetting about this or they're not aware about it, but with PayPal having just last year towards the end of fourth quarter being allowed to their different users in the United States only to be able to buy Bitcoin, that combined with Square consumes more than all of the daily produced Bitcoin that these miners are acquiring. Just that alone. Now keep in mind that PayPal is launching it worldwide for people to be able to buy Bitcoin through them this year, and it's supposed to be either this first quarter or the first half of this year. I believe they said first quarter, right? So it's going to be very soon that you're going to have another means of access that actually simplifies the process, which a lot of people, they don't understand the whole KYC system, especially if you go through something like Coinbase, or they get too frustrated with it. They think it's too invasive of learning about you, and you got to show your picture and do all those things with the cards on a lot of these different websites, and it's like, right? So people don't know the website. There's many different reasons, but PayPal, a lot of people already use PayPal, and they're like, oh, I could buy Bitcoin through PayPal now? Well, I've already got PayPal, so all I got to do is log into my PayPal. That's all I got to do? Oh, okay. So I think it's going to be interesting once that rolls out. Something else that's very, very, very bullish for Bitcoin is that we haven't even seen the big players like Amazon say, we now accept Bitcoin. Wait until Amazon decides to say they accept Bitcoin, or eBay, their leading competitor, right? Walmart. What if two of those three decide that they want to accept it? What if all three decide that they want to accept it? You see how much exponentially it's now going into the retail market? With PayPal, they're getting access to all these merchants, and one merchant can have a vast amount of different locations. Like, for example, McDonald's can be one merchant, but they've got, I don't know how many stores, right? Hundreds of thousands or something. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I just know that they've got a ton. And obviously they're in the business for real estate. And so you're looking at a transitional movement where there's already a supply shortage, and you're seeing how much it's shaking the market as of right now. We're seeing exponential gains already, and we're still just barely in this starting phases of this movement. New interesting regulations and things going on too. All right, so next thing is they talked about the Lindy effect. I thought this was pretty cool, so I actually want to talk about this briefly. Most of our video here is going to be focused on the charts. The Lindy effect, or Lindy's law, named after a New York delicatessen where comedy shows were discussed, argues that for a non-perishable object, its life expectancy increases with how long it has lasted. This is true for comedy shows, but also perhaps digital currencies. For example, it's reasonable to think that the Great Wall of China, at over 2,000 years old, will continue to be around for many centuries. However, we can't say the same for the iPhone 12 launched last October, which has just been around for months, and it's a fair bet will be obsolete in just a few years as technology moves on. As things exist for longer, so their life expectancy increases according to this theory. This matters for Bitcoin. Early in its life, there were fears it could be hacked or the technology would fail. This hasn't happened. Yes, Bitcoin wallets and other means of storage have seen various issues and failures, but the underlying technology has not. As Bitcoin continues to exist for longer, so following Lindy's law, we might expect it to be around for longer. This suggests that all else equal, the value of Bitcoin may trend up over time as it proves itself. Indeed, this is broadly what has happened, though Lindy's law can't account for quite as extreme price swings as we've seen, right? So more information can be seen on that through the Forbes article by Simon Moore. All right, another thing. I mean, I wanted to go look at this article and discuss it a little bit, but, you know, Bloomberg, they're like New York Times. They're buttholes. So you got to actually subscribe to their stuff. You can tend to find a lot of this information at other sources, but I tried to find something more on it, and it seems like Bloomberg was the only one that kind of talked about it. So the key highlight takeaway that I just found interesting, gamblers could use Bitcoin at slot machines with this new patent, right? So you're getting more involved into the gambling aspect, which we know a lot of money moves around in that kind of market space. I'm not encouraging people to gamble with things. One could say that investing in anything is a gamble in and of itself. So, it's give and take however you want to look at it. But I just thought it was interesting news. Next up is kind of looking at what's going on with Loopring, right? So Loopring has seen an epic 165% weekly price surge as Ethereum gas prices have been rocketing. So nice little correlation going on there. Loopring saw an incredible 58% price explosion over the past 24 hours. Cryptocurrency is now up a whopping 165% over the week. Against Bitcoin, Loopring rebounded from 575 Satoshis at the start of January 2021 and is now trading at 1,440 sats. Okay, let's go take a look at the charts. So we are in the new daily candle formation. It is 4:07 p.m. Pacific Standard Time as of the time of me recording this video. So we're just 7 minutes into the new daily position. And looking at Bitcoin, you can see yesterday we had a nice explosive growth. There was another point of an attempted huge sell-off, but it was quickly bought back up by those big players, big financial institutions, right? So that was at $29,901, dipping just slightly below $30,000, coming all the way back up. The daily candle started its position at $32,000. So, it's still quite a substantial drop that took place there initially, climbing all the way up and at one point getting close to competing against the previous all-time high. We saw a position that reached up to $34,536. On the new daily position, only 8 minutes in, as I said, we do see a pretty deep red that's going on. So I've been seeing this happen pretty frequently. As soon as the new daily candle positions, there's selling pressure that takes place that has... And I don't know if this was the same day, January 3rd, but I've seen it drop down, establish itself as the bottom for the wick, and then that point just kind of carried up. So it's like, hey, let's just kind of get it out of the way, get the selling pressure done, and then continue to climb up. Doesn't mean that that's going to happen again, but it's something to kind of keep in mind. According to the RSI, it's suggesting that we are significantly overbought. Now, keep in mind the RSI is a bit of a lagging indicator, and this is also in a bull market. We're in the price discovery zone. So I wouldn't be using that as too reliable of an indicator. One thing we can also see here is that the volume, I know it's hard to see because these candles are just so insane. There you go. Now you guys can start to see it a little bit more. So you can actually see that this has begun to shift itself a little bit in the position of the level of volume going up in this direction here. The previous day did have a little bit of a drop off. So we could see a little bit more of a cool down or consolidation going sideways. If we do see that kind of movement taking place, I would be looking more so at the altcoins, seeing how Ethereum is doing, as Ethereum is getting very close to its previous all-time high. And people could be looking to take profits from Bitcoin and allocate it over to Ethereum and be able to get a higher percentage return during that actual movement. And we do look back historically, back to when Bitcoin hit its all-time high in 2018, and you also look at Ethereum during the same time period, and a lot of other cryptocurrencies made their major moves during the same kind of market. So Bitcoin is having its time to shine right now as it's beginning to run. And also keep in mind, right, a lot of people are suggesting this isn't that 2017 and 2018 all-time high, what we're seeing right now. This is more like 2016 beginning to make that run all the way up, because the average price, according to Stock to Flow, we're looking at, as I mentioned earlier, about $288,000. We're at $33,000 right now. We're still significantly off. I mean, we're talking about massive gain potential to roll out from here. So if this decides it wants to go sideways, that calming period is oftentimes where people shift their focus over towards the next thing that's actually moving and that's hot. Pump and dump situations are very common in these kinds of things. But also, if you look back in time, you could see that those pumps that occurred, they were very, very significant. And some of these projects that are leading and paving the way within DeFi, they look like they have a very promising future. And I think this could be the time for them to shine and actually start to get a market cap evaluation that's actually more realistic and more appropriate for them. They can then settle themselves down a little bit more, more faith comes into the institutions that are backing these kinds of things, and then they can continue to progress from that point on, right? So not all projects are going to be pump and dump. Some are legitimate base projects that have a very good structure format, their consensus model, the market space that they're focusing on. So it's going to be interesting to see how this actual transition occurs and we move forward in time. Once again, if you guys are new to the channel and you're enjoying this, please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. Let's try to get to 100 likes, guys. Every like helps out so much. I think I'm going to sneeze. I'm like, yeah, oh, it's close. No, now it's fading. I don't know how that works. How can you feel like you're about to sneeze and then it decides not to? And also click the bell icon. As it is right now, guys, we are looking at this major level of resistance right up on the top here. I'm going to go ahead and make this a nice little dotted line for you guys. So as you guys can see there, that's going to be right around $3,000, almost $3,500, right? Zooming in, zooming on in. Yep. Sorry, wait, it's 3,000, not 3,000. Why did I say 3,000? Jeez, if we went down to 3,500, then we'd be looking at back at like March of last year, right? So I meant to say about $35,000. Right now, break around 34,900 would technically be the new all-time high, but psychologically, break above 35,000, that puts us $5,000 or less than $5,000 technically towards the 40K mark. So you believe that now 40K is more possible. So I like to use a rule of 5 in these kinds of circumstances. And as you guys can see, what I was talking about earlier is starting to show itself a lot more. So initial big drop taking place in that selling pressure, but it's bouncing back up and you're starting to see it showing forms of recovery. So a lot of people are very bullish on Bitcoin right now. Even when it's having these massive drops, it's boom, getting bought up right back. And the big players that are now involved, they have the capital to be able to prop it up and keep it from having these severe drops. They don't want to have significant losses either. So if they create the emotional level of stability amongst the average person that doesn't have a lot of money, then there's more security in your mind at saying, you know what, yeah, I can invest my money in it. And boom, now it's continuing to rise. So it's so important that you have both sides involved in this, the major financial institutions, and you also have the regular retail investors coming in too. We're all an economy, right? We're all in this together, and it's about circulation, getting things moving around. Or in this case, you hodl, but someone has to sell it at some point for you to be able, you get my point. If this decides that it wants to drop down, we could see it pull all the way down to the 21 EMA, which actually is very much in line with what happened on January 4th. And that's at $27,800, right around in that range. So 27,920. So more or less right along the same price range. And that actually taps off the bottom to what we saw on December 31st. So right here, major level of support. Could it drop down that low? Well, I mean, we saw the last 2 days, it had some pretty big wicks that took place going down. You can also see that the 21 EMA is showing signs of increasing itself as it goes along this way. It might even potentially begin to rise up even higher. So the higher that this slope becomes, the more this has to continue to push up significantly in order to stay above that point. If this goes sideways, at some point, they're going to crisscross right here. And when they do that, this going underneath is going to suggest a bearish pattern, which then could actually suggest it going even further for a while. And then it'll finally be able to have another rally going up, right? I know it's a lot of squiggles, but hopefully you get the point with this. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on with Ethereum. Ethereum had another really nice daily candle closure. You can actually see we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 days of closure in the green. Today we are showing signs of red as well. Some selling pressure going on. We're still above $1,000 though, which is absolutely amazing. And you can also see, just like very comparable with Bitcoin, we got close to breaking the all-time high for the year like Bitcoin had, although Bitcoin was technically all-time high period. We still got to get to $1,420 for Ethereum in order for it to break its all-time high. And that was set back in 2018. As you guys can actually see, we just zoom out here for a bit on the monthly. That was back in January of 2018, right? So looking at this right now, we need to break above $1,170. That is a very key point, as that is the major level of resistance for the year. If it can manage to break further above that, then that would actually put us more comparable to these points. Let's go ahead and zoom back in on these charts right here. So you can see we got some major levels being positioned. I would be looking at $1,177 as potential resistance, $1,227, and then following up with that, the all-time high, right around the $1,420, $1,430 kind of dollar range, right? Let's go ahead and pull this right on back over here. Try and get this zoomed over and zoomed in for you guys a little bit better there now, just like that. 21 EMA is actually slightly below a first level of support, which is around $836. And then further below that, the 21 EMA is at $792, $793, right? Breaking further down below that, we actually go into a previous Fibonacci retracement position. So, you know, that's before we had the major breakout zone. And I wouldn't be too concerned with that, but, you know, we could see a drop down to even $700. There you're looking at, what, about a 30%, 35% drop, which we have had happen in crypto before it decides it wants to have a further continuation rally up. But I think there's a lot of sentiment now. There's a ton of support, obviously, for Ethereum, and keeping it above $1,000 is very important, and it is very likely to happen. I think the likelihood of it dipping below 1,000 and staying there for very long is minimal. It is possible, but I think the odds, the probability of it is way higher that it's going to stay above 1,000. We're so close to hitting the all-time high, and people want to know, how high can this actually go? Let's break that record just from even a psychological or an achievement level and be like, you know, hey guys, we did it. We were able to pass it all together in the Ethereum community. So keep an eye on it, right? Let's go ahead and look at the next one now. Let's go look at Orchid, OXT USD. Looking at Orchid, guess what? We have broken up above, and you guys can actually see that we had this symmetrical triangle pattern. As I mentioned, though, the 21 EMA, this yellow line right here, especially for Orchid, it really needs 3 days of closure to establish itself as a position of what direction it's going in. Because ever since the $1 drop zone, we've had 2 days, and then it's flipped, and it's gone the opposite direction. The one time that I believe we saw the 3 was the only actual continuation pattern for that direction. So this could be a fake out, and with a massive green candle like this, what normally happens with Orchid? A pump and dump. And I hate to say it, I love this project and I want to see it do well, but that's something that's very common with this. So it could drop all the way back down, and if it filled all the way back to the base zone of where this candle started, it'd still be inside that symmetrical triangle pattern. So we could still see it play out to January 7th, January 8th before it makes a more official decisive move. One thing that I am concerned with is because of these massive wicks that are taking place, I might have to shift my top position. There's a lot more consensus taking place with where I've placed this, but obviously trends begin to change as things have moved around, and you know, it is what it is, but we see a long movement sideways that's been going on. It attempts to rally, and then there's selling pressure and it drops down lower. Sideways action, tries to rally, and then drops down lower. And also, unfortunately, right now, Orchid is only really focused on the VPN industry space at the moment, right? The nano payment structure system is amazing. It's great. And the fact that they want to expand out into other markets is amazing, and it's great. The fact that they're now on like all the major exchanges is amazing. It's great, right? But a lot of people feel that the VPN space is not significant enough for this to be an adequate type investment. However, I think from an investment perspective, you have to look at the bigger picture. And obviously, this is a small price project. And obviously, it's more easy to be manipulated, right? But being the part of the first mover's advantage is so key. Like as if you were in the early stages with Apple. A lot of people wish that they could have bought Apple stock or Facebook stock or been in those early developmental stages for, you know, Google. And so you have to think about where the company is, who's managing it, what is their vision, how credible are they, what is their work ethic, what have they done so far to kind of validate and prove themselves, and where could they be a year and a half from now? Where is the economy going to be a year and a half from now? What markets are they trying to focus and tap into a year and a half from now? And from the research that I've done, just from my own personal opinion, I think this project is so highly underrated, and it's being so overshadowed because of the pump and dump situations and because of the fact that as of right now, they're just doing the VPN space. And I believe in the future, people will realize that this was a great project to come in on it. So, I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm trying to sell you guys in on this. I'll be honest, I do own a good amount of Orchid, but I honestly believe in this project. There's other great projects that are out there too. I own some Loopring as well. We're going to take a look at what's going on with that here in just 1 second. So sorry about me rambling on for a bit, but I think it's important that if you don't know about some projects, that I take a little bit of time to share with you guys what I do know and what my personal opinion is on too. I'm not a financial advisor, so keep that in mind, but we're a community here. Dropping down below the 21 EMA, we got 24 cents, 0.2444. Dropping below that, we go back into the entry point. This is now forming a potential level of support on that top position. That's at 23 cents, 0.2355. Further drop down below, we could see it hit 22 cents, 0.2285. And then a further drop down, I'd actually be looking at right about here at 21 cents, 0.2100. I am seeing Bitcoin on the side as of me talking right now. It has had a little bit of a drop. It's down to $33,468, 481. Now it's starting to recover just a little bit, but there's some selling pressure that's going on there. Again, we're only 22 minutes in the new daily candle positions, so we still got a lot going on. I would also be concerned with keeping an eye on what's going on with the Georgia Senate runoff. A lot of people supported Biden from Wall Street, and we actually saw that as the electoral votes came in, and it was shown that Biden was the favored position to win, and then he was first declared, there was a significant rise in Bitcoin. One of the correlations could be that the people in Wall Street that are now becoming financial investors into something like this, that are looking at it from like a democratic political viewpoint stance on lawmaking, right? They could be looking at this and saying, hey, depending on what happens with the Senate for Georgia, whether it be Republican or Democratic, that could also start to dictate. Because if the two seats for the Georgia Senate position go to the Democrats, well, the Democrats now control both the majority of the House and of the Senate, which means it's much easier for things that Biden wants to approve to actually go through. So the sentiment from the people on Wall Street that supported Biden on his political campaign, it potentially could be in their favor of what they believe in from perspective views of this and that, right? It's something for you guys to keep in mind. So I would be concerned with how the volatility of Bitcoin comes today because of the Georgia Senate runoff, tomorrow because of the electoral votes going on in Washington, D.C. Everyone's wondering if there's some wacky business that's going to happen there. And then I would say also on January 20th. Those are like the three big key dates. If there's any other significant news that's going to be coming out soon that you guys are aware of that I didn't say, let us know in the comments down below. If Orchid decides it wants to go up, we did have resistance at 27 cents, basically 0.2682. If it wants to go up further than that, I'd be looking for it to break out past 30-cent range, breaking out of this consolidated space, going above 32 cents at 0.3228. Okay, sorry about that. I'm used to doing a lot of live streaming, and these videos end up being pretty long because I still got the same kind of mentality, but I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, hit the like button. All right, so looking at Loopring, guess what, guys? We're in another day of green. So even though Bitcoin and Ethereum and a lot of these other things were showing some downtrends, we're now in the 1, 2, 3, the 4th day in green so far. It did start off with some selling pressure, but it's already beginning to have a rally. And we actually saw a previous all-time high of 63 cents yesterday. That was all-time high, I believe, right? According to the chart, I can see it here on TradingView, it looks like it. I can always double check in CoinMarketCap. But anyways, for the year at least, we know for sure that it's the all-time high. That's a guarantee. So if we can break above 64 cents, looking at 75 cents is another key point, right? It's, again, psychological fundamentals for these things. Sometimes some of these people, they want to overcomplicate this stuff so much, right? And there's some patterns that are very good reference points. I like the Fibonacci retracement, and they prove to be very valid. But some people go so far down into the rabbit hole, and they try to get so nitpicky with these numbers. In the end, it's about if you just happen to guess right on the roulette, right? You have a better chance, in my opinion, of saying whether it's going to be red or blue, or sorry, not red or blue, red or black. You got better odds of getting that right than you do of saying it's going to be number 17. right? The odds of you getting that are obviously way harder. So thinking from a more realistic, more fundamental perspective can actually be much more safe for your investments into things. And, you know, golden rule, never invest more than what you're willing to risk to lose. I know that sounds like basic common sense, but a lot of people that watch these kinds of things, they've never invested into anything. I had a phone call with someone that I used to work with, for example, and, you know, man, if you're watching the video, thanks for watching my video, but it proves the point. A lot of people will have this mentality of buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, and they forget a lot of the other elements that come into it. You got to pay your capital gains tax on all these things. If you're trying to do transfers over from one crypto to another, guess what? There's still capital gains that are going into that formation. And you got to account for all of that information. You also look at it that you think that it's going to go further down, right? So you're like, well, let me go and sell it here because I think it's going to go down. But then it fakes you out. And just like the reference I said earlier, now you're buying back in at a higher point. So the easiest thing to do is to just buy and hold. I believe there was a study. It's like 80% of people that do day trading, they lose money. I saw something like this. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but it's about 80% of people, they don't know what they're doing. So if you're coming brand new into this kind of thing, you know, it takes a lot of study. It takes a lot of research if you really want to do that kind of a pattern, that kind of trend. And the trends tend to change. You got to be able to learn how to read them. So watching a video upload on YouTube is not about real-time momentum and movement, right? It's about saying at the point in time when I recorded the video, this is what it looks like it's doing and where it could go. Oh man, my video ended up being pretty long here, guys. I'm sorry about that. Let me go ahead and just kind of finalize this up. So 28 cents, 0.2881 is a bottom level support. The 21 EMA around 24 cents, 0.2420. Breaking above that 62 cents, going to 75 cents. We could see it rally up potentially to $1, but I would be saying this very strongly, guys. There's a very high chance that $1 or just under $1 could be that level of resistance before it decides it wants to tank down a whole bunch, and people then look to another project to try and start moving that up. And so, you know, $1 from where it was before is significant profits. And it's moving quite considerably. I do like the fact, though, that we're now on a 4th daily candle. So keep that in mind. Lastly, let's go and look at XRP very briefly and just see what's going on with it. Looking at XRP, you can actually see we had a daily closure of red, but not much. It just basically canceled out the day before that. Here, another daily candle, slightly in the red. If it decides it wants to drop back down, 17 cents is a level of support. We could see it drop down even further. Around 11 cents is a major level of support. Going up, you're going to see resistance at the 21 EMA at 31 cents. A further resistance back up around 44 cents as well. Okay, so that's going to go ahead and do it. My video is already super long. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to hit subscribe. I love building this community. We got a lot of good people. Let us know any thoughts and opinions you had on what we talked about today in the comments down below. If there's any news, anything that I might have missed, you guys can update everyone on down there. Also, make sure you guys click the bell icon so you actually know when we have a new video go up. Appreciate all of you guys so much. Thank you for all the likes. Hopefully we can try to get to 100. If not, you know, it is what it is. I haven't been hitting 100 on like any of my videos I've been doing here, but it's a goal and I'm pushing forward with my goals. I hope you guys are too. Thank you so much. We will see you in the next episode. Oh, look at this. Going back up a bit. A little bit of action back and forth. Bye, guys.